Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Omar.
This is Monica.
And this is Alex.
And you guys are watching
The Creative Minds Podcast.
Yes, sir. That was totally our first try, guys.
Let's go.
That was totally
this
our
was
first
definitely
try.
our first try.
There was no other tries at all.
Right. Today we're so excited. We have a special guest with us. But before we get into this special guest, we actually want to tell you a little bit about the topic for today. So today we're talking about finding your creative voice. And so who better to have with us today than the one, the only Charles Patton. How you doing today, Charles?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
He's also known as REDLION in the poetry community.
That's right. So what we feel so special and honored to have Charles with us here today. I'm calling him Charles just because, I mean, he's family. So it's just like, you know.
Homie G.
Yeah. I mean, you guys definitely need to address him as REDLION, though, as y'all see him. But
Mr.
Mr. Lion, if you piss me off.
Hey.
It's Mr. Lion. It's Mr. Lion to you. But we're so excited to have him here today because
Charles.
we're ready to just talk about like the importance of finding your creative voice, the importance of just like trying new things, exploring to find that. And we know that you have been doing a lot of new stuff. We've had the opportunity to recently work with Charles. He just released a single called Audacious. And then now he's about to release the video. And I'm not even going to say the date because I don't think you've even mentioned the date yet, right?
No, nobody knows yet.
No one knows yet, so you got to keep on the lookout. I'm assuming the video will probably be out before we release this podcast.
I was about to say,
Definitely be out before we release
it. It's out, guys. Go check it out.
Go check it out. If you're watching, by the time you're watching it, you got to go watch it.
This is the future.
This is the future. But we're so excited to have him here today. And so we just want to start off with allowing Charles to just kind of share his story with us. Let us know who you are, where you've been, what has led you to this path, what has brought you to find this creative voice in poetry. So talk to us a little bit about yourself.
Dope. So the honest truth is I've been doing poetry probably performing poetry for about 12 years now, right? I didn't really want to do poetry. So
explain that, please.
So the thing is, right, I'm dyslexic. A lot of people don't know that. So I'm dyslexic. I have a hard time reading, writing, memorizing, all that stuff. Whenever I was younger, I really wanted to design video games. There was a stint where I, was really into drawing and art and painting. I wanted to be a football player at a point in time. And I more toward that. I was leaning towards it until I broke my leg, so that sucked. And poetry was, I don't want to say it fell in my lap, but it was just kind of one of those things where I saw and I was intrigued by it, and I was like, let me try it. Not make a career out of it, but let me just try it. Let me see, what that's like. I saw people do it. I heard people, and I was like, all right, let me see what this is about. So, I guess whenever I was in high school, I started writing and, performing and everything like that. But nowhere like outside of church. So whenever I graduated from high school, I was 19 years old. And I was like, you know what? I want to start going out to places and open mics and shows and everything like that. So first open mic I went to, I actually had dislocated my kneecap and I was on crutches. That was an interesting thing. Woof. So I go to this open mic and that's what a lot of people that was a lot of people's first encounter with me, just the crippled.
Oh wow.
This crippled poet.
Handicap REDLION.
Handy lion.
Handy lion.
Handy dandy lion.
Yeah,
Front row seating.
Right.
Front row parking, sorry.
Jesus Christ.
Alex already knows.
Right. So I did this open mic, and at this open mic, I didn't realize it, but we call them OGs. I know a lot of people call them, ROGs. And three of them were at this open mic. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know anything about the poetry community in Houston or anything, but they saw me and they kind of took me under their wing, exposed me to stuff, gave me opportunities to perform, gave me platforms to perform in Houston. So,
but wait. You can't just say that you ran into three OGs without mentioning their name. Who are these people?
You are absolutely right. How could I?
Give credit to where credit is due, my guy.
You're right. You know what? You're right. And I'm big on credit credit too. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
No credit.
You know, on that note, man, Doc, I shared some pictures on Instagram earlier today, and then they were Vanessa's pictures. I didn't even know they was Vanessa's pictures, and I was like, dang, bro, I ain't give Vanessa no credit, and I felt horrible. You know what I'm saying? Tag Vanessa.
Tag Vanessa.
Tag Bonnet, please. Hashtag.
Somebody run
Tag
her a
Bonnet.
check right now.
We're working on that.
So
$5 million.
$5 million, man, one day.
Amen.
So these OGs in the community, they go by Choice the Poet. Ernest L. Beeson, he used to go by Baritone, but he goes by Ernest L. Beeson right now.
Okay.
And Lyric. So those three were the three poets that like I first had my encounter with, and you know, like I said, they gave me opportunities, they exposed me to the community and everything like that. So I'm very grateful for all three of them,
For sure.
and just the place that they've had in my life.
Yeah, and you know,
It's awesome.
speaking about like these three people, because I'll be honest with you, I am not familiar with either one of them. I'm also not familiar very much with poetry, like community.
community,
So
yeah.
For me, like I've always even wondered, is that something that has always been big in the city of Houston? Because I do know that there are a lot of other cities that are like heavily promoting like poetry all the time. But for myself and my personal experiences, I have not seen that as much in Houston until I met you, honestly. And then I started seeing you doing your thing. So I was like, man, let me go check them out. I want to go watch them. And then I started seeing other people doing their thing. And so now I see like, it's really a big culture thing out here, but has it always been that way as at least since you started, or do you feel like it's definitely developed a whole lot more since then?
Yeah, so I know whenever I started, it was already like kind of a thing that you do in here in Houston. So like there are poets that have been doing this since like forever. I would say the earliest that I know about is probably 99, 98.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So it's been around in Houston for a long time, and probably longer than that. I think one of our oldest curators, or you know, not old, one of our more seasoned curators.
There you go.
He goes by Black Snow, and Black Snow started this culture of open mics here in Houston and performing and paying the poets and everything like that. So, you know, he was kind of that guy. You know, then we have poets like Seven who kind of took this idea of open mics and made it like a really big event, like a weekly event type thing. And then, you know, from those two, we have like people like a Scott Free, Courtney Lynn, where we go live. We have people like Khalid, Kanai. You don't know any of these people that I'm
I've
talking
heard
about.
of some of them because of Bars and Ballads.
Bars and Ballads,
When you had that
Oh,
event.
that's right. That's right.
Right. And you know, so we have all these people just kind of creating these events. We have another one in the community that a lot of people know internationally. His name is Amir Safi, and he runs the largest open mic here in, you know, Houston and in Texas, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a weekly open mic, and Amir has like been on like news outlets. Rappers follow him. Like it's just, poetry has always been like here in the city, and I think now people are starting to see it more, but it's always been heavy. We've always had a rich poetry culture here in the city, and it's kind of one of those things where if you're not in the culture, you don't know about it,
Right.
But if you know somebody in the culture, then you know about it.
But
you know?
Got it.
For sure.
Well, let me ask this: as far as like the poetry culture, how does it? I'll just ask you personally, I guess. Does it bother you when somebody's like, "Oh, so you're a rapper"? Because you know that people get bothered by that, right? I've heard so many like poetries that are like, "Hey,
I'm leaning into.
or are you a lyricist?" Or
I want to see what you
know,
have to say.
That's funny. Okay.
And then like you do have people like we were just talking about Toby, right? Like in Houston,
Right, yeah.
who started off as you said that he was doing poetry, and now
Yeah.
he is considered a rapper, but
Right.
everybody still views him as like a lyricist.
Right. I'll say it like this. I believe that every poet can be a rapper, but I don't believe every rapper could be a poet.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Because
I see that.
when you look at rap, right, what encompasses rap? Obviously, it's the music. Obviously,
Right.
it's the wordplay and everything like that. Obviously, it's being an entertainer. A lot of people can rap. Right. But especially in recent years, you know what I'm saying? And this has been the thing, like you have these things called ghostwriters, right?
Never heard of that.
Never heard of a ghostwriter?
We don't use them.
Never.
when I say that every poet can be a rapper, literally when you look at not only rap but every genre of music that requires any kind of written work, normally you get a poet or somebody who has a poet background to write those songs. Every song branches from poetry. That's literally what it is. It's literally like the genres of music are a collaboration between instrumentation and lyricism, right? You have to have the lyricism as well as either the musician or the producer, somebody who has an ear for it, right? And those come together, those create your genres. So it's rap music, R&B music, country music, right? Because instrumentation is very much a father, poetry is very much a mother. Because poetry ingrains its DNA really deeply into that music.
So are you saying each song is like having a baby?
Each song is like having a baby, bro. That's what it is, man.
Sorry. Everybody has to clap for that one, you know?
Sorry.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So that but that's pretty much it, man. Like that's what poetry is, man. So when I say that every poet can be a rapper, but not every rapper can be a poet, everybody can't write.
Right.
That's just it.
That's for sure.
And that's the prerequisite to calling yourself a poet. You got to at least be able to write.
Right. I myself have had the opportunity to be a ghostwriter, where I'm called and they're like, "Hey, I'm an artist, but I don't know how to write anything at all. Can you write a song for me and don't tell anybody?" And I'm like, "Yes. Pay me." And so we've had the opportunity to do that, and it's great. And it's a great opportunity to be able to express yourself that way and allowing the artist to do something that maybe you personally don't want to deliver, like that type of song. Like I'm like, hey, I like writing this type of music, but I'll write this type of song for you and let you do what you do as the artist, right? And so you said 10 years now, right? Going 10 years strong into your business? 12 years, okay. Years. So after 12 years, what can you tell those people that are just maybe following you?
Can I ask a question before we get there, though?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I want to know how you started. How did you know you had this gift? What made you start? What made you try? That's because I think this is interesting, you know?
So once again, like I'm dyslexic. So reading and writing was never really in the cards for me.
Right.
I know a lot of people say, "Oh, you were born to do this. You were born to do that." For me, it wasn't that case. I had to develop. I had to work it out. You know what I'm saying? Wow. This gift was not originally mine. I think what I had was an imagination. And because I had an imagination, I chose to put my imagination to something. And I feel like if I would have put my imagination to any other art form, I would have been just as good at it. You know? Yeah. It just happened to be poetry. So whenever I apply this imagination to words, it's a crazy thing because I was never really good at writing before. So let me tell you a real quick story, right? Because I know we don't, you know what I'm saying? I want to respect everybody's time.
You're good.
Whenever I was a freshman in high school, my first experience with knowing that I could actually write was in English class. Whenever I had to write my first essay in 9th grade. I'll never forget my English teacher. Her name was Charlene Culpepper. And Miss Culpepper.
Sorry, that name's pretty funny.
you better put some respect on Miss Culpepper.
I don't know if you're making that up or if you're like for real.
No, y'all leave Miss Culpepper alone, bro.
Miss Culpepper.
Dog, that's my dog.
Shout out to Miss Culpepper.
Dang gummit. And I remember distinctly like just not caring about format. I didn't care about form in this essay. I just wanted to write it. I wrote this essay. I gave it to Miss Culpepper, and Miss Culpepper was like, "I really want to enter this essay into a national competition."
Whoa!
It didn't win anything, but the fact that she like acknowledged the fact that this is really good writing, that was like my first experience with like, oh wow, I guess I can write, you know what I'm saying? And my first really understanding that, wow, whenever I apply this to a thing, it makes it like really cool and really dope and like, you know, it's good, you know what I'm saying? So that was my first time applying imagination to something and seeing it do well.
Wow. That's cool. Thank you.
Yeah. I completely forgot the question I was going to ask.
So you asked after 12 years.
Right. So after 12 years, how, with all the experiences that you've lived, how is it that you can definitely share this with somebody who's maybe just following you right now and starting to say, man, this is something I want to do, you know? Even like when we went to go shoot your music video, I got to meet a lot of people there, and they were talking to me about they're like, man, I really enjoy poetry. I'm just getting started. Like, this is something new to them. what can you tell them about creating their voice, right? Because I think that's a big deal for a lot of creatives, where they're like, man, I have this great imagination, I have this great ideas in my brain, I just don't know how to express them, I don't know how to get them out, whether that's poetry or any type of form of art. But what would you suggest for them with 12 years of experience? This is what you need to start doing in order to find that creative voice.
That is a very layered question. And I'm gonna have to be real churchy now.
Come on, Pastor.
I'll get the piano ready. I got you.
6-1 B flat.
Let me go get my tambourine.
Not that serious, y'all. So this is what I'll say, and I believe that regardless of your walk of life, right? So you can be Christian, you can be Muslim, you can be a Buddhist, you can be spiritualist, you can be any walk of life you choose, right? What has been true for me in my walk is, if God has not called me to the thing, then it's not for me, right? And I think a lot of times we will see people and we'll say, I really desire to be like them, or I really desire to have the thing that they have. Right. But the truth of the matter is, right, there are 100 people who say, I want to be Beyonce, but they can't. Right. And that's no knock to say that they can't excel in the area that they want to excel in, but you're not going to be Beyonce. You're not going to be Mike. You're not going to be Kendrick. You're not going to be Kanye. You can be you. And even a step further, to say that I want to do this as a living, you have to really be called for it, because it comes with a lot of pressing. It comes with a lot of stress. It comes with a lot of anxiety. It comes with a lot of depression. That's just a territory that you choose to step in, especially as an artist, because artists, to me, are some of the most spiritually inclined people in the world. Right. To say that to be able to create something out of an idea, is that not like the closest thing to God that you've ever heard?
I definitely believe it.
Right. So doing that and manifesting that, right? If you have this idea in your head that you want to manifest and call yourself a creative and artist, you have to know everything that comes with it, right? So one, I would say that, man, you just got to make sure that this is something that you really want to do, because it's going to come with a lot of stress and trauma. The other thing I'll say is this, and I live by this: passion without excellence is only half effective.
That's good.
Meaning that I could say that I'm passionate about a thing, but if I'm not excellent at it, then I'm not going to be as effective. You could say, I really love singing, and you could sing all day, but unless you are sharpening your ears, your voice or whatever, you just going to be functioning on a half voice. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't going to be able to excel or grow. You could be rawly gifted and naturally gifted at singing, but unless you sharpen that thing, you're only going to go so far.
Agreed. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That's a good point.
Or you could be complete trash and say that you love something. Yeah. It's like I just like doing it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna practice, but I like doing it. And you trash. Right. How you gonna get better if you don't sharpen it? You know what I'm saying? You ain't gotta just don't be trash.
Alex was just talking about that yesterday. He was just like, man, there's so many people that are like, oh yeah, I do this, and then they want to network and stuff, and then we see their work or we see their product, and we're like, man, like, there's still so much more room for growth, right? It's not to downplay anybody or to say they're just not there yet, because even we're still learning, we're still growing, we're still trying to develop.
To grow.
Yes, that's what I think a lot of people forget, that when they get up in age or they've been doing it for so long, they forget that they can grow even in, even though, let's say somebody's been in the industry for 15 years, whatever industry it is, you can continue to learn and grow. Right. We all have to do it.
We literally were talking to a DJ this week who's been doing music for over 30 years, and he's still discussing things that he's constantly looking at to learn and to develop himself as an artist, because he gets to travel all over the world doing what he loves, right? And he's like, well, I've been doing it for so long, I have to work twice as hard as the young kid that's just naturally gifted, that understands all the trends, that knows how to use the cell phone because he's an older man. So he's like, I got to keep up. And there's only one way to do that. I got to go sharpen myself up constantly, every day. Every time. And I feel like that's a struggle for a lot of creatives. That's a struggle because I think people see it, they like it, they enjoy it. But then when it comes down to put the work in, it's like, well, I just thought, I was just going to get 100 likes for doing what I do. It's just like, well, that's not always the case,
It's not how it works.
Nuh-uh.
To burst your bubble, guys, 10 years, right? They say it takes 10 years or 10,000 hours to master something. Okay, that's minimum.
Yeah.
That is a minimum requirement, because the truth of the matter is, much like your DJ friend, everything is constantly growing and evolving and everything like that. And if you just say that, you know what, I've been doing this for 10 years, I'm a master at it, you're going to get left behind. That's just what it is, because that's just the world just grows like that. But I think that's a beautiful thing, because it means I'll always have something to pursue,
Exactly.
which gives me purpose, right? So, anyway, but yeah, 10,000 hours is minimum.
So I do a lot of piano lessons, vocal lessons, stuff like that with a lot of young kids, and they get excited once they have noticed that they've grown or they've gotten better, and they're like, man, check me out, I can do this now. My range is now better.
Yes.
I'm actually singing on key. My pitch sounds proper. I understand what dynamics are now. The intonation is actually good. And so like as I see these people develop, a lot of times one of the things that I've noticed in the young kids is they get to a place where they're like, oh, I can do that now. I'm good. I don't have to move anymore. I don't have to try anymore. And I guess I'm trying to redirect it back to like, how do we encourage these young creatives to continue to try to like hone into that creative experience, right? Like to hone into their gifts, but also sharpen it, right? Keep on growing. What would you say has kept you hungry, right? Because that's really what it demands, that hunger, right? What has kept you hungry to keep on doing what you're doing for 12 years? And it's almost like what you said earlier, right before we started the podcast. I was like, hey, how's everything going with Audacious? You're like, oh, it's going great, but I'm already ready for the next one. Right. Like, it's just like, we're moving forward. What's next? What's going on? So what has kept you with that hunger?
When I first started doing poetry, I noticed that a lot of poets were niche poets, meaning that they specialized in certain areas. So you had the Black Lives Matter poets that did all these pro-black poems, which is dope, right?
Yeah.
You had people who did a lot of LGBTQ poems. You had people who did erotic poems. You had people who did a lot of civil rights, just different things, but they kind of stayed in that pocket, right? So for me, I always wanted to be as diverse as I possibly could, because I wanted to reach as many people as I could, right? In order for me to do that, I had to realize that, okay, I'm going to have a niche to an extent, but I need to have a really good anchor, because I want to be able to hit as many things as I can. So what I decided was my anchor was going to be hope. Because hope is something that is needed in every single area. Because it's needed in every single area, I will always have something to write about. Right. Because every area is always going to need hope, right? Is why I can do poems on sex trafficking, or I can do poems on immigration reform, or I can do the Black Lives Matter poems, or I can do the hope poems, the purpose poems, all that stuff, right? Because that is my anchor. That's my foundation. So what I would say is find that anchor for yourself. Right. Find that anchor that's going to keep you grounded. Find an anchor that's bigger than you. Right. That too. Because the truth of the matter is, right, and we talked about this before, like how every rapper can be a poet, like how every poet can be a rapper, but not every rapper can be a poet. Anybody can entertain you. Yeah. Anybody. But that doesn't mean they have substance. That doesn't mean they have depth. That doesn't mean that they're out for your best interest. Some people just want your money. You know what I'm saying? I'm in it for your soul. I want your soul to be good. I want your heart to be good. So my recommendation to somebody who may not, or that this might be new to them and they really say they want to do this, right? Man, understand that it's always bigger than you. It's always bigger than just the poetry. There are people who need what you have. Right.
And, I think with that being said, that has a lot to do with authenticity, right? Like finding your passion, finding what it is that you think is so important to actually spend time on, for you to actually share with, for you to express. And so I like to encourage my young people that when they're talking to me about like, oh, well, I like to do this or I like to do that, I always encourage them, go try those different things that those different subjects, those different topics, those different themes that you want to try, and fail. Like really mess up. Like it's okay if you're just like, I've never done that type of work. Go for it, try it, and because in that you can literally discover whether you're really great at it, or you know what, maybe that's something that I could not connect with, right? Like it wasn't authentic to you to actually participate in that, compared to somebody who's like, no, I love this, like I found it. For me, I've tried writing songs for different types of genres. There's some genres where I'm like, man, I feel like this comes like natural to me. Like I can write something immediately. And then there's sometimes where I'm like, man, this is really out of my comfort zone. I'm still going to do it, accepting the challenge. Also use it as an opportunity to grow, to even reinvent myself, to stretch myself. But at the same time, I'm trying to hone in on keeping that creativity flowing, right? Am I capable now of writing something different? Am I capable now of going into a new direction and still be successful at it, right? And still find something good about it? And can I still bring my authenticity, what I'm passionate about, what I love doing, into that news topic, right?
Right.
For poetry, what would you say is probably like one of the biggest challenges for you, as far as like in these 12 years, for you to put yourself out there, for you getting the marketing going, for you posting constantly on social media? What are some of the challenges that you've had?
Man, honestly, I think it's just that. As a creative, right? And I think most creatives, I think you would agree with this. A lot of creatives, we're good at the creation aspect, right? We are not always good at the business.
It's not why we go into this, right?
You know
Like, this is not, that's part of the part everybody hates, right?
You know?
And that's why you need a team, because they pick up where you can't. What you can't carry.
Are you trying to put me on blast right now?
No,
I'm
trying to encourage. Gentle. Be gentle. Gentle.
He's like, please don't hit me again.
Not again, Mom.
I'm scared.
It was a gentle pat. It was not. I was excited.
Gentle
I had
pat for
just
Charles
heard
Patton?
your video, and I was like, dang, you're awesome.
Yeah.
And so I didn't punch him.
She dislocated my shoulder with a slap.
I saw it.
Like I almost
I
dropped the
saw
mic
the
and I had to catch it with the other hand. You know?
She's had practice. She's had 3 kids. Naturally. So yeah, talk to us a little bit about those challenges. What about those challenges, and what have you learned from that, right? Like how has that stretched you to, as far as like in your own personal career?
Right. So, performing poetry and doing different shows, obviously at some point you grow to the place where you want to be paid because you're good and you're dope, right? So I'm like, you know what?
Wait, you get paid for this stuff?
Absolutely.
Oh man, that sounds cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm needed. And I'm dope.
He's like, and I'm dope.
You know, all 12 of these octaves. I'm dope.
12.
He sure can.
12 years, 12 octaves.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, it comes with it. But yeah, man. So I call myself, this is something I want to do, right? And I want to make a living off of it. I want to, you know what I'm saying, raise a family off of it. In order for me to do that, I got to make money. That's just, you know, that's the reality of the situation.
Right.
And I have to know how to make money. I have to understand my worth. In doing shows and gigs and all that stuff, I've had good experiences where promoters like, you know, hey man, we'll pay you X amount of money for this, yada yada yada, and it's cool. And then I've had horrible experiences where promoters will be like, yeah man, I know we said, I know we agreed to this, but you know we had all this and this and this, and we just can't do it right now. Can you know what I'm saying? So
I can pay you an
pizza in the back.
exposure.
You know what I'm saying?
We can pay you an exposure.
Hey man, we got chicken spaghetti in the back.
You can take some
The
home.
chicken spaghetti.
No, and let me tell you, I'm not. If you're upfront, like
absolutely.
like integrity is a big thing for me. If you say upfront, like, hey, we really don't have the funds and yada yada yada.
This is our budget. This
Right.
is where we're at. Can you
Right.
come for that
Right.
price?
And that at least allows you to make the decision
Right.
of whether you can afford to do that or whether, you know.
And let me tell you something. You brought up those young poets before. So one thing that I love doing, sometimes I can't take events. And I always recommend other people to those events that I can't take, right?
Yes.
There are plenty of times where people will be like, hey, Charles, we want you to come out here. I have a show that day, but I do know a really dope poet who can take my space. Or in the case of, hey, man, we can't really afford to pay you that much. That's cool. I know a young poet who is exceptionally gifted and talented who needs, you know what I'm saying, needs shows
Right.
under their belt. You know what I'm saying? So I can recommend them for that show. You know, because like we talk about community all the time. It's bigger than me. You know what I'm saying?
Most definitely.
Like I can be here all day, you know what I'm saying, and do the shows and take up all the stuff, or I could spread the wealth. This is what Solomon was so good at, right? Solomon, like when you read about Solomon, he wasn't just wealthy and wise. He literally made his servants wealthy and wise around them. They talk about like the robes that they were wearing, you know what I'm saying? If I'm rolling in the Bentley, you know what I'm saying, like what you look like rolling around in a hoopty, bro, like, you know what I mean?
It's just not right.
Like that's like we're supposed to, like, we can only grow large and support each other, you know what I'm saying, if we have each other, like if we're around each other. Let me reword that. Like we can only get to these heights and sustain these heights if we're together. Yeah. You know, so that's just how I feel about it.
So speaking of young poets, speak of your first time on stage. How did that
go? You and your what? Crutches?
Yeah.
Everybody was like, choke.
You're terrible.
Or did you get on there? You're just like, send me everybody.
Wow. So the first time was not on the crutches. The first time that I actually did poetry and performed poetry, I don't know if you guys remember. There was one of my mentors. His name is Daniel Zarate. We called him Pastor Dan back at church, and he used to do these outreaches, these hip hop concerts.
Oh, dope.
And the first time that I actually was able to do poetry was on his stage. He gave me up to. He was like, Charlie, I know you write that poetry. You know, I want to see you. You know, I'm wondering if you could do it for the hip hop concert. So I'm like, all right, cool, Pastor Dan. I'll go. I'll do the hip hop concert. So my first experience with that was that, and I sucked. I was god awful. And the cold part was like I started off real strong. Good. I was confident, and then I forgot the line, and I'm like,
it just threw you off the rest of the time.
No.
And I was like, and then I hate church people. I love y'all, but I hate y'all at the same time. They were like, that's all right. That's all right. No, it's not. Shut up. It's not all right.
They're trying to encourage you, and you're like,
it's okay.
Keep going, young man.
It's like, that's all right, baby. That's oh boy.
I can hear that. I can hear that.
And then I started over, and then I was like, I will never mess up like that ever again. And I never did.
Whoa, that's impressive.
But that was my first experience, like with like poetry and everything. I was naturally competitive. I came out of football. I was like, no, if it ain't excellent, you know what I'm saying? If it ain't good, then it's trash, you know?
Yeah. You're like, I'm coming for them W's.
If you're not first, you're last.
That's right, man. I'm like DJ Khaled. All I do is win.
All I do is win no matter what.
The whole ocean.
Tell me to bring out the whole ocean.
Play rugby.
Have you ever played rugby? So what did you have to do to fix that error? Because obviously, like, I mean, one, you already had to overcome the challenge of being dyslexic. I'm sure that's a huge challenge. And then two, like, how did you put what basically strategies did you do in order to like surpass that? And then even then, like, I've heard of people that will go and for their first time do a terrible job doing something and then never again will try again. Like, I've literally met people that are like, yeah, I want an opportunity. Can I sing? They'll sing. They'll do a terrible job. Everybody laughs, everybody forgets about it, moves on, and then they're just never to be seen again. How did you decide or say, man, you know what, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying?
I feel like I can guess why you kept going. Ooh. You just said it. Because you are a competitor. Like, you like that. Yeah. And you want to do it with excellence. So you're like, I messed up, but I know I can do better, so I'm going to be better. Instead of just giving up and like saying, I suck, I can't do this. You were like, no, I can do this and I will do this. I feel like that's kind of like the mentality you probably had.
Next question. Yeah, no, that's actually exactly right. Like I said.
Next question.
So like football developed, and I want to hit on a point too. Football really developed a competitiveness in me, right? You mentioned earlier about going and trying things, right? And I think even though I'm not like a graphic designer, right, or you know what I'm saying, or a video game designer, or a professional football player, I still use those things from like me trying things that I had a desire to do, and I apply them to what I do now.
Absolutely.
I can't always afford a videographer. You know what I'm saying? Creative minds, you know what I'm saying? Y'all are dope. I can't always afford y'all. So sometimes I have to, if I didn't know how to edit videos, you wouldn't see the content. Yeah. Because most of the videos that you see on my page are stuff that I edit. That's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? A lot of those graphics, I make the graphics because I learned it a long time ago.
Right.
Just because it's not my profession doesn't mean that I can't operate in it.
Right.
Football made me a competitor. So when I messed up on stage, and to your point, yes, man, I was pissed off because I didn't do and I didn't perform like I felt like I could perform. So I'm gonna go back out next month to the same hip hop concert, and I'm gonna do better than what I did before. So absolutely.
That's awesome.
I wish we had a train
I love
horn.
We have this.
We're gonna add.
It's not as
yeah,
good.
we're gonna
Maybe we
add
can just
that.
add the sound effects
Yeah.
over that sound.
I'll record the audio for it. I'll record the audio for it.
Oh, there you go.
It'll be me.
We'll create a sample
Done.
of Alex's
Right.
voice. Go ahead and show
Sound
us.
bit.
With that.
That'll work.
Right.
Well, Charles, we kind of are starting to wrap up, like how basically wrapping up here as far as honing your voice. If we can give basically 2-3 words, 2-3 sentences on how to hone in on that creative voice, what would you say to somebody? Or if you can give some last closing remarks about the importance of finding your creative voice, what would you share with them?
It's something that we always hear. You mentioned it earlier. Authenticity. There's only one you, right? I have this thing that I always tell my young people. Like, have you ever looked into a mirror and noticed how useless a mirror is until you look into it?
Right.
You want to know why? Because the mirror doesn't have any identity. It has to pull identity from you, right? And it's the same thing with those gifts, right? Because there are
I'm about to do a praise break right here.
hold on. Okay, careful.
Calm down. Stop with your words.
No, for real. But like, so
That's good.
There are hundreds of poets in this city. There's only one me, right?
Right.
So I must be myself. I find it very hard to lie and be something that I'm not. It takes too much energy to lie. First of all, that's no. But yeah, no. So you literally give identity to the gift that you have. As much as I love listening to a Kendrick Lamar album, it would be really terrible if every single person sounded like Kendrick.
Right.
It would be terrible.
Absolutely.
Because even though he's great at what he does, there's no diversity. That's why I love a J. Cole or a Big Crit, you know what I'm saying, or a Lupe Fiasco or a Wale, you know what I'm saying? Because it gives me not only the same music that I love, but it gives me a different taste of the music that I love, right? So you have to be different, because if you just sound like somebody else, you ain't getting nowhere, first of all. Ain't nobody finna hire Beyonce wannabe. Ain't nobody finna hire Kanye West 2.0.
Unless
No,
it's
you're
impersonation night.
You
That's
know what I'm
about
saying?
it.
Unless it's impersonation night.
Yeah. No, but I really connect with that, man, because I think for me, that's one of the things that I've always heard, where people are like, oh man, you should check out this album and just do something exactly like that. And I'm like, well, I'm in a whole different direction, you know, like,
Right.
and it's not that I don't think that album is good, or that I don't think that artist is great, or I don't think that genre is great. It's just, I'm going to go with what I feel connected to, what I'm identifying with, what I'm living, and what I feel is my authenticity, right? Like when I release my music, it's like, hey, this is really me. This is what I wrote about. This is a season that I've walked through. This is something that I've actually lived. It's not just, oh, let me come in the studio, write a song down, put it on a track, and let's see what happens. Like, no, this is really me exposing myself, opening my heart to people, showing that authenticity. And I think that that's huge for creatives. Like, I feel like, one of the things that we've had in this conversation, as far as in the creative mind circle, is sometimes they're like, hey, when we're talking about things and we address like a problem or something, they'll say, I feel like you're exposing me. Like you're really calling me out of what I'm doing or not doing, right? And I think that that's important for you to expose yourself sometimes to people in your art, because that is part of showing your creative voice, right? No one else has lived the walk that you have walked. No one else has passed through the struggles and tribulations that you've lived. And so we all have a story to share, right? And so to me, that's so important. I don't know if any of you guys have a closing remarks about creating your voice, right? Like showing that as far as a creative. Anything from you guys?
Man, just try everything. You never know what the heck you're gonna stumble upon, really. You know, I couldn't draw. I tried drawing, tried painting, tried pretty much everything artistic.
You did lights.
Yeah, I did lights, but I mean, I think tech is like what I like. But when I fell into cameras, it was like, oh, this feels right. This is where I'm supposed to be. So just dabble in everything. Try everything. That's my recommendation.
I like that concept. I know sometimes, for instance, I have friends who have spent hours upon hours, and I'm talking grueling hours. They've spent money to become a, let's say, nurse. You know, they've become a nurse. They're a nurse, and they're actually in the field, and then they're realizing, like, whoa, this is, I don't know, it's too much, or whatever, you know. I like to encourage them and say, you know what?
Tried it. You didn't like it.
Exactly.
Go ahead and move on to something else.
Do not tell yourself, I spent so many hours, I spent so much money, this is where I have to be. But be miserable. No, never. You should never be miserable while you work. You should always, yes, you're going to have bad days, you're going to have tough days, but never stay miserable. You have to find something that you love to do, because when you're working at it, you're going to do great. The excellence is going to come out. And so, yeah, I love that concept. And I always try to encourage the young people, the old people, what do you call them? The seasoned people.
Seasoned saints.
Just keep
Seasoned
trying
saints.
until you
saints.
find what you love.
Yeah.
Well, Pastor Charles has been preaching to us this entire podcast.
I know, that's right.
He's giving Bible verse. He's talking about Solomon. I'm going to get Pastor. Can I borrow the pastor hat for a second? You know, the Bible says that who's going to want that to enter the kingdom of heaven, we have to be like what?
Children.
Like children. And so to me, like, I feel like children are constantly trying new things, right? You think about a kid in high school is like, man, I want to play basketball and I'm going to be a basketball star. And they join basketball and then they find out they are trash, you know?
Or they find something better. I know this is a real true live. I'm sorry not to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
But I want to add this because it really happened. Caleb, my son, played basketball since he was 10 years old. And I'm talking about in leagues, you know?
AAU leagues. That's what they're called.
AAU, and these coaches loved him. These coaches were
Go ahead
like,
and tell him
Mom,
how tall he is, though. You know, that's probably
Caleb
why he got hired.
is 6'3".
And he's like
But-
another Wimby.
He's a
But he
tall
wasn't
Hispanic
always
kid.
6'3".
Tall
Yes.
Hispanic kid.
But he the coaches would move practices just so that he could be there. The coaches would say, he can't, I'll make it work, Mom. Tell me what I have to do to make sure your son is here with us. You know, and I always appreciated that because it worked around our schedule. But guess what happened? When he was about to enter his senior year, guys, we're talking playing basketball for 7 years. And we are also talking about he loved basketball. My gosh, that was his passion. When you would ask him as a young kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm going to play in the NBA. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, he was like, I'm going to play NBA. Oh, one time somebody told him, are you going to take the church after your dad's done? And he's like, no, I'm going to be in the NBA. He's like, what's wrong?
bro.
Like,
The ball is
what's wrong
life.
with
We got a
you?
game
Yeah.
in Charlotte tomorrow, dude. I already know. Come on.
Yes.
I got to catch the flight.
Right. And so he was like, no. But at the end of his junior year and the summer going into his senior year, he literally sat both Obed and I down and he said, I don't want to do this anymore. I said, why? Explain why. I love basketball, but I love music more. And he was like, I'm serious, Mom and Dad. I want to step into the music world. I want to learn more. I want to flow in it. I want to learn how to do everything I possibly can in the music world. And that's what I want to do. And I want to be able to go to different churches or go wherever they ask me to play, whatever. And I cannot lie. I was not that spiritual mom. I was like, no, you have all your life to do that. You only have 1 more year left of high school basketball. I'm going to suggest you stay in basketball. Well, he kept knocking on our door. After so many times, I'm like, okay, I understand. I get it. And that kid said yes to music and ministry. And I can't explain it.
The word is called flourishing.
He is flourishing.
Oh, for sure.
The boy
He
is cold.
loves.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. He's definitely
Like
flourishing.
the boy is good.
Somebody's gonna walk away and say, that boy is good.
You look good.
Good out there, man.
Yes, and what he spoke into existence is actually happening now. He's going to different churches and ministering. They called him this year. He worked an entire youth camp. He worked several camps, several youth camps. And it only took 1 year. Like, in other words, he said yes to it and he committed to it, and he's like all in. There's no denying it. And I was like, I can't believe I almost stopped this. Like, I can't believe I almost,
There's something about that junior year going into senior year summer. Same thing happened to me.
Yeah, that's when it happened.
I was in college, and then that summer I was like, man, what the heck am I doing this for? I'm gonna just go make music videos full time.
Must be nice. I broke my leg, so
I had a harsh reality check.
He's like, the only option I had was, what was I gonna order? What was I gonna order to eat? I can't walk.
Uber Eats. There was no Uber Eats back in the day, bro.
There wasn't Uber Eats back in the day?
No, it just started probably about 3 years ago.
Wow.
3-4 years ago.
I wouldn't know. I'm really young, guys. I don't
Something
know.
about that summer, though. I'm telling
we
you.
old, Omar.
Are you though?
I'm really not. We're pretty old.
To get that pizza delivered to the crib, you know what I'm saying?
But yes, it's super important to hone into that, right? To find your creative voice. And again, it all comes down to the same thing. Being authentic with yourself, finding that passion, trying and exploring different things so that when you do find what you're passionate about, then you can then excel by simply going after it, chasing it, learning as much as you can, embracing it. And so with all that being said, we just want to thank, first of all, Charles REDLION. Thank you for being with us today, man. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you guys
but
for
before
having
we
me.
do get off this podcast, we do want you to do us a favor, man. Go ahead and spit some bars, bro.
This was not in the contract.
or
Cut
you
the
can
cameras.
or you can or
Let me
you can
handle
at least
Omar real quick.
or at least you can do us the favor of let everybody know where they can go see you. You know, where's your social media at? What's
The
your
wheels
YouTube?
in his head are turning.
What's
Look at
going
him.
on?
He's
You can
gonna
either
come
give
up
us
with
a
a few
live
bars.
performance right now, or you can say, hey, make sure you go follow me here so you can see everything that I'm doing. Go ahead and let them know where they can find you at.
Just put my handle in the thing.
I got
Alex.
you,
Just
I got you.
Post editing. See, I know a little bit because I had to do it myself. Underrated, underestimated, underappreciated. We water under the bridge to the rains, then we elevated. They say through tears the best artist created. The world steady weeping, so we hella saturated, frustrated, still dedicated. So every step be premeditated, pirouette to step ball, change to kick off the balls and chains. Arts be both sledgehammer and key, war cry and melody. No matter the melanin or pedigree, we all got a puzzle piece, whether paintbrush or pencil, angelic voice or stencil. The loudest shout, the quiet mind, the rap song, the dope bass line. They say you can only find superheroes in comic books. Now imagine if you never knew how Superman looked. To manifest thought to reality, to paint the world as it is, or chisel it how it should be. We are both chronicle and history maker, sky dancer, earth shaker, the sound of revolution, the voice of rebellion, the soundtrack at the wedding, the heartbeats anthem. You untagged the concrete and we tattooed them streets again. It's a war of words for this nation, but all my shooters got pens. Long live the creator, still touching every heart. Long live the gifts of God, and long live the arts.
Clip that.
Crying.
Hold on. Hold that thought, guys.
Stop crying, fool. Why are you crying, fool?
Let's go.
Why are you crying?
It's so good.
Well, guys, we want to say thank you guys for watching. Please do us a favor. Make sure we're going to be adding like all his pages where you guys can follow him. Make sure you guys follow REDLION. Keep up with him. If you guys have any comments, any questions that you guys may have, feel free to put them down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching the Creative Minds podcast. Hit it, DJ. Dance break.
I don't know how to play bass.